Dawn soaked the city in the thin gray of a tallow candle left to gutter. From the window of the Tower of the Hand, Eddard Stark watched smoke roll slow from the chimneys along the riverfront and gather in the belly of the morning. The Blackwater was a sheet of dull lead, rippled by the oars of scullers and the shrugging shoulders of gulls. The air smelled of salt and tar and fish stewing in yesterday's pots. He knew cold and clean wind that bit at exposed flesh and taught a man to be watchful. This southern damp softened edges. A city with rounded teeth, he thought. It eats all the same. On the table before him lay an open book with fraying leather and ink faded to the color of old bruises. The lineage of kings, the tangles of houses, names upon names that had once been boys and girls and mothers and sons, and are now ash in some cookfire of history. He had traced the loops of them for nights, measuring the slope of jawlines and hair color, and when he reached the bottom of the page he pushed back his chair, for there was nothing left to do but what the law demanded. He had known a tearing in himself as he put quill to parchment in the night. There had been a moment when he thought of a child, a boy with the anxious dignity of the newly proud, staring up from a throne too big for him and for anyone. What good did truth serve if it cut a child in two? What good did mercy serve if it left a falsehood upon the realm? The quill had scratched the answer, not from cleverness but from a kind of homely stubbornness learned in the yard at Winterfell. If you were set to mend a fence, you mended it. If a post was rotten, you got a new post or the cattle would wander. He slept little, owl-eyed, and rose before light tried the edges of the city. The letter, sealed with the direwolf, had cooled to a brittle resolve by the time he sent Tomard to fetch Ser Barristan Selmy. The old night came as the city woke, white cloak folded across one arm, the other hand on the pommel of his sword, not in fear but in habit. There was iron in the mane of his hair and in the set of his mouth. He bowed to the hand of the king as if the gesture still meant what it used to. "My lord hand." Barristan's voice made even the spent hearth embers stir. His eyes went to the book on the table and then to the sealed letters that lay beside it like thin bricks of trouble. Ned inclined his head. "Ser Barristan, you have always held yourself to the law. I have held myself to my oath. Oaths are law writ into a man's marrow. Sit, if it please you." Barristan did not sit. He stood beneath the window where gulls scissored the ceiling of the sky and the light was the pale glass of a northern lake. "The king is dead," he said softly, "and men who were bold with their tongues in his hall are bold with their daggers in his absence. Tell me what you intend, Lord Stark." Ned put his palm on the sealed reed paper. The words he had written were brief as battle orders. "I intend to put the matter in daylight. The boy on that throne is not King Robert's son. The law names Lord Stannis the heir. I intend to say so from the steps of the Great September before the city has time to swallow the truth." Barristan's eyes did not flinch. There was something like sorrow in them, like the ache of an old wound that broadened under rain. "Lord Stark, you do not need me to tell you what power would array against such words. The queen will not fold her hands in her lap and let you speak. The watch can be persuaded. The men of the gold cloaks are men like other men. Then I will not be alone." Ned nodded toward the letters. "Ravens fly to Dragonstone this morning. I will take the harbor before her lions find their footing. The royal fleet answers to the crown, not to a house. I am the king's hand still, and by Robert's own sealed writ, I am regent until the rightful king is seated. If the fleet is loyal, as it is sworn to be, it will be held in trust for Stannis. If they hesitate, I will put the writ in their hands." Barristan's jaw flexed once. "You are subtle enough to know what is done in this city is seldom done without coin, Lord Stark. And you are honorable enough to balk at counting out gold like a fishmonger counting eels." "I will not purchase treachery," Ned said, and it was not pride, only a boundary he could not cross and remain himself. "But loyalty can be kept from hunger with honest pay. The fleet's men are due their wages. The steward of the king's ships has delayed them 2 months. That delay ends today." Something like the ghost of a smile moved under Barristan's beard. "You think to bind oarsmen with the weight of a full purse. I think to remind them whose coin they take," Ned said. He picked up the topmost letter and handed it to Barristan. The old knight read the hand without moving his lips. He turned it and examined the seal, the spread-winged direwolf, and when he handed it back, he touched the edge of the table with his fingers. "You mean to stand before the September with this in your hand?" It was not a question. "Before noon. If I do not, the city will be muddy with whispers until you cannot tell the footprints of truth from lies. In the harbor, I need a man whose oath binds him to the realm and not to a house's purse. Will you come?" The white cloak lay heavy over Barristan's arm. He did not look at it. "You place me, my lord, not on the edge of a sword but upon it." "Lord Stannis is the law," Ned said, and it was the simplest sentence he had ever uttered in this city, and yet the most barbed. "I ask you to stand on that side." Barristan's eyes drifted through the window to the river, to the lean ships that were beginning to stir in their moorings. "A man grows old on the work he chooses," he said. "Bring your writ to the harbor. I will stand with you while you read it. Past that, I do not promise what I cannot see." "I would not have you promise in the dark," Ned said. The dawn's light climbed a notch. When Tan left, Ned was briefly alone with the quiet that comes after decisions are made. The stoutness of the moment pressed against him like leather armor one size too small. He sent for Tomard and Desmond, and for the summons of the harbor steward and the officer who bore the key to the royal boathouse. The steward arrived with a sweat already shining in the corners of his eyes, hat in hand, mouth eager. The officer with the key came slower, a broad-shouldered man with a scar like a pale thread across his cheek, an oaken key on a thong at his belt. "My lord Hand," he said, and his voice had the rasp of rope through a ring. "What would you have of the royal boats?" "Your name," Ned said. "Torrin Rivers, my lord, bastard of Hayford." He did not invite pity with it. He said it like a man says the color of his hair. "Good. You're a Crownlands man. Today the boathouse opens, the galleys are manned, their wages are paid, and the boats on the royal lists do not leave this harbor without the hands writ and my seal affixed. I will hold the keys in your presence and return them to you when the day is done." Torrin Rivers looked as if he weighed the words in his palm and found them of sound make. He unknotted the thong and set the key on the table with a careful respect. "Aye, my lord." Ned gathered the letters, the sealed proclamations, and belted on the sword that his men had brought up from the chest 2 days before at his order. Not the long family blade he'd left at Winterfell, but a serviceable southern make, narrow and quick. He was not a man who reached for steel for the taste of it, but it steadied his hands to feel it there. Arya found him on the stairs as he went down, small as a shadow at his knee, hair wild as straw that had been kicked free of the bale. "Father," she said, no curtsy, no pretense, as if she had been tugged to him by a cord. "Where are you going?" "To the harbor," he said, and her face lit as if he had said they were to visit the Mews. She loved the smell of ropes and water and the cats that prowled along the pilings. He set his hand on her head and felt how small she still was. "You will remain here with Septa Mordain and your sister. You will not go to the windows. You will not go to the garden. If you see gold cloaks in the yard, you will go to the inner chamber and bar the door. Do you understand me?" She made a face, the first startled flinch toward disobedience, and then something, seeing his look, steadied in her. "I understand." He bent and kissed her hair, which smelled faintly of the soap a maid had bullied her into. "You will be the eyes of the house while I am gone. It is a hard duty. I give it to you because I know you can bear it." Her mouth firmed, and for a moment he saw his sister's stubbornness in her. "I will," she said. "Father." "Yes. Will the truth make monsters out of men? It will make some men into what they were always waiting to be. It will make other men choose." He did not know if that answered her question. "It is as close as I can come," he thought. "Tell Sansa I will return before noon." He left with Tomard and Desmond at his flanks and a file of grey-cloaked guards behind him, bearing the direwolf on their chests, the only northern cold in this steaming place. Barristan met them in the yard, pinning the white cloak to his shoulder as he walked, and together they passed into the street, where the city was waking thickly as a horse shakes itself. The fishmongers shouted their prices. The boys who carried slops ducked and dodged as if born with hooked feet. The bakers' ovens gave out a warm breath that caught at the throat. By the time they came to the riverfront, the sound had changed. It was all rope and hammer, plank and strain, a great engine waking. 100 small noises, none like the wilderness he had known. And yet there was something steady about it that reminded him of men tending fields. The royal galleys sat in their berths, lean and predatory, with paint dulled by salt and sun. They looked, Ned thought, like the bones of large fish laid out in rows to dry. The harbor master waited, cap in hand, a thin man with a nose that had been broken and never set rightly. "Lord Hand," he said, and bowed deep enough to show the bald crown of his skull. "Samwell Bywater, at your service. Your brother is Ser Bywater of the City Watch." The name slid into place. "My cousin, my lord. He has the better bones and the better boots." The harbor master smiled to show that he knew he was making a joke about his own poverty. Nerves made people droll. "How may I?" Ned took from Tomard a small chest. He set it on the cart the harbor master had used for tallying fees and flipped the lid. Gold laid there in neat columns. Not a great treasure, but more than most men would hold in both hands in a lifetime. The oarsman nearby turned at the clack of coin on wood and went very still, the way birds do when a hawk passes and only realize later they had stopped breathing. "These are wages overdue to the royal fleet," Ned said loudly enough for 15 paces of men to hear. He had never liked to raise his voice, but some moments called for it. "Men of the oar and men of the sail, men who stand watch at night and scrape hull by day. You are not hired by a house. You are not the Queen's property to be paid at her pleasure. You serve the crown and the law. As Robert's hand and by his sealed writ naming me regent until the rightful king is seated, I command. Ships under the royal list shall take no passengers, bear no letters, and move not from this harbor without the hand's writ and my seal. Master Bywater, you will pay the men their wages in full, and you will make a record of it. From this hour, any man who refuses the order of the hand shall be stripped from the rolls and forbidden the royal or for a year and a day." He lifted the first coin and let it fall so it rang against the others. The sound traveled like a knife. Men began to drift toward him as leaves drift to water. Barristan stepped up, white cloak bright as salt in the air, and planted his sword point on the planks at his feet. Tomard and Desmond arranged themselves where they could see the approaches from the warehouses and the alley that led to the fish market. Ned kept the sealed letter in his left hand. The men stared at the seal as if it were a small, watchful animal. A voice from the back, rough with laughter that wasn't laughter at all. "And if the Queen says different, my lord? If her lions come down to the docks with their pretty cloaks?" Ned turned toward the voice and found the man who had spoken without difficulty. He stood with his chin set and his fists on his hips, a stubborn man with salt in the seams of his face. "Then the Queen will hear the law and see the seal and understand that the fleet is held in trust for the lawful king. I will read the law at the great September before noon. You may stand there as I do if you wish to hear it again. For now, take what is due you and know whose coin it is. And if the gold cloaks say to shut the boathouse?" This from a younger one, his ears still too large for his head. Barristan turned to them. "Then a man of the Kingsguard will say otherwise to their faces." The old stubborn man looked at Barristan and then at the coin. He stuck out his hand, and when the harbor master put the money in it, he went away quickly as if afraid someone might insist he give it back. Others followed. A murmur rose, and with it an odd relief. Men lived their lives hoping to be paid what they were owed and seldom were. Ned saw shoulders ease, saw a man thumb the edge of a coin and then slip it into his mouth and bite it, grimacing at the taste and smiling. Torrin Rivers came and placed the key in Ned's palm. "There are 6 galleys of war and 9 of lighter draft that belong to the royal lists," he said, with the air of a man reciting perfectly the contents of his cupboard. "2 are out on patrol. The rest will bend oars if commanded. There are 3 large cogs and a dozen fishing craft that will obey the harbor call if you need them. Conscripts, not lists. The cogs are fat, my lord, but they'll carry messages faster than a man on a horse will ride to Dragonstone, if the tide holds and the wind lends a shoulder." Ned looked at him and nodded. We will send a fast galley with 3 letters and the hand seal. We will send a cog with supplies and coin. We will send a second cog with such men as will volunteer to put Stannis Baratheon in mind that the realm is not blind to the law. I won't ask men to put themselves in the middle of this, but I will not forget the names of any who step forward." At that, a ripple of feeling went through the crowd. Men glanced at one another the way hounds glance when they hear a horn and want to know whether they may run. No one stepped forth just yet. They never did at the first call. Men waited to see what kind of man would move first. Ned waited with them. The waiting was like winter, after a time that was not long and yet felt long enough to measure a man's heart. The stubborn man with salt in his face moved his boot half a step and then put it down as if he had always meant it that way. "My name is Byron Tripp," he said, "or for 7 years on the King's Pride. I'm not much with a sword, but I've both arms and a back that can set orlocks going without complaint. You can send my name to Dragonstone." Another man cleared his throat. "Tomas Waters, rope man on the Dancer. I've a wife with a temper and a boy with a stutter, and I figure either one of them will rule me if something doesn't. I'll go." Then more men who kept their faces flat to keep their courage from leaking out of them. The harbor master wrote names so fast his quill squeaked. Ned released the breath he had not realized he had been holding. "Master Rivers, dispatch a galley with these letters at once. 1 to Dragonstone, 1 to Storm's End, 1 to the Lords Paramount of the Stormlands, the Vale, and the North will go forth from the September after I have spoken. Master Bywater, keep a tally of the coin. Desmond Tomard with me. Ser Barristan. I go where the honor of my office is not made mock," Barristan said. "I will be at your side when you read the law." Above them, on the crooked sill of a warehouse window, a cat watched with gold coins for eyes. Arya would have liked that. He pressed the thought away. He had placed his daughter inside a ring of duty and locked it. The key to his peace of mind sat in the hand of a stubborn girl. He would not let the city swallow either of them. They were not gone from the harbor 5 minutes when the gold cloaks appeared. Janos Slint had a way of arriving with his body puffed larger than it was, as if he had taught his flesh to step into a room a half heartbeat before the rest of him. His mustaches twitched like insects on a windowsill. The men with him looked everywhere at once and nowhere in particular. Ned felt Tomard stiffen at his shoulder, and Barristan detached himself half a step, white cloak settling like an accusation. "My Lord Hand," Slint said, and bobbed a little bow that had no bottom in it. "Busy morning, I see." "It will be busier at noon," Ned said. "There will be a reading at the Great September. Bring as many of your men as you please to hear the law. For now, the harbor is closed to royal vessels without writ. The boathouse key is here." He weighed the oaken instrument. Slint's eyes drifted toward it and then scuttled back to Ned's face. "The Queen," Slint began, and swallowed whatever impolitic truth his tongue had almost dropped. "The Queen will be displeased to find her movements hampered." "The Queen is not the king," Barristan said mildly. "The harbor answers to the crown. And the crown answers to the words written in this hand," Ned said, holding up the sealed reed. He let the gold cloaks see the dire wolf and did not yet tell them what was beneath the wax. "There is a moment for everything," his father had said once in the yard. "Your work is learning to know it." Slint watched the men taking coins into their palms, watched the names being written, and a muscle in his cheek jumped. "There was no need to trouble your honorable hands," he said finally. "We would have seen the men paid." "They were not paid," Ned said. "Now they are. The difference between was and is my business this morning, Captain." "Lord Commander," Slint corrected, and then made the mistake of grinning. "Forgive the vanity of it, my lord. I forget myself sometimes." "Sometimes," Barristan said, so softly that only Ned and Slint could have heard him. The gold cloak's eyes darted to the Kingsguard's face and away. He bowed again, such as it was, and withdrew, leaving a smell of oiled leather and ambition in the damp. They went from the harbor through the fish market where flies were already building tiny kingdoms on the day's catch. Ned saw a woman slap the back of a boy's head for trying to filch a sardine and watched the boy endure it with royal indifference. He wondered briefly how it would feel to be the mother of a boy who had been named king falsely and raised to demand whatever he could imagine. He did not have space in him for pity now, only for the work of the morning. Inside the great September, the light was the color of fresh cream. The columns seemed to go on forever, serene stones that felt no feet even as they bore the weight of prayers. Septon Eustace met him, wringing his hands like wet laundry. The old man had worn through the soles of his shoes walking up and down those aisles and wore through his temper as slowly. He blinked when Ned told him what must be done. "You mean to say it? In the September?" Eustace whispered as if the walls had ears and would be offended. "Before the mother and the father and the smith and—" "I mean to say it in daylight," Ned answered, "where those who live in doubt can set eyes on letters and seals. If you wish to read the binding of the law yourself, I will put the coin for new candles into your hands." Eustace colored but straightened. "The 7 do not take bribes, Lord Stark." "No," Ned said, almost smiling. "They keep poor accounts in that matter. Men take them, and that is the mischief. I pay for candles and for the voices that will carry, if I must. Will you do this?" "It is less a matter of my doing than it is of whether the September will be torn apart by the news," Eustace said. "And yet truth wants hearing. If there is a stone at the bottom of the well, it is the stone we must draw up," Ned said. "I will stand on my own feet. I ask only that you let men gather to hear whether their feet should shift." The Septon nodded. "At the 3rd bell," he said, and his voice in the vastness sounded small but not ashamed. "Some truths require wide air." Ned stepped back into that wide air. The sun had climbed enough to blanch the pigeons on the ledges. Sound carried strangely when it came through the doors of the September, like water poured from a height. He moved to the steps as men began to gather, and in that hour he saw along the thin lines of the city cobblers and bakers, men of the ferry, women in aprons, a knight in a cloak with a ketchup stain on it as if he had eaten too swiftly and did not send his clothes to the washerwomen often enough. He saw Varys, silk and mild eyes and hands folded like a librarian's. The spymaster bowed with a courtly grace that could be picked up and put down like a hat. Littlefinger came and leaned on a column as if he had grown out of it and smiled a private smile at nothing and everything at once. Pycelle waddled, panting, and whispered into the ear of a squire whose hair still insisted on sticking up where the world had not softened him. Ned spared them each a glance and returned his gaze to the steps. Ser Barristan stood to his right. The white cloak lay like a snowfall down his back. His gauntlets shone plain and well-rubbed. The old knight had no taste for jewelry, none for ceremony except the parts of it that meant something. He took up more space than his body did because the weight of all the things he had done for the realm hung around him the way a smell hangs about a baker. At the 3rd bell, Septon Eustace touched Ned's elbow. "Now, my lord." Ned took in the faces, the expectant hush, the feeling that comes just before men learn whether their house will stand one more winter or give in to rot. He held up the sealed reed so that all could see the mark of the direwolf and felt the hush grow a handspan deeper. When he spoke as if teaching a boy to hold a sword, clearly, without flourishes, with nothing in it but the instruction. "By the will of King Robert, by this writ written in his hand and sealed with his seal, I, Eddard of House Stark, Lord of Winterfell, Hand of the King, Regent until the rightful heir is seated, proclaim. The throne of the 7 kingdoms is not held by the boy Joffrey. He is not of King Robert's seed. The law natured into our very marriages and our inheritances holds Lord Stannis of House Baratheon heir to the Iron Throne. He resides at Dragonstone under the Baratheon banner. Until he takes the throne, the realm will hold itself as a man holds his breath before diving, steady and clear. The royal fleet, the city's watch, and those sworn to defend the crown will act according to the law and not according to fear. It was not the thunderclap it might have been in rumor. It fell into the crowd like a stone into ice. Cracks running outward, noises thin and sharp, then heavier sounds as the weight of it spread. Someone cursed in a voice so filled with grief it might have been prayer. Someone laughed, high and brittle, like pottery breaking. He saw in the press of faces the truth of what his father had told him long ago. Men love the idea of order until a new order is set before them. From the edge of the square, movement, and not the kind that comes of Bree. Lannister guards, their cloaks red as fresh brick, came like a spill of wine. At their head walked the queen, hair hidden under a veil not for grief but for theater. Her eyes were cool as a river in winter. She walked as if the ground owed her back each step she put on it. Joffrey trailed, thin-lipped, pale with indignation and something very much like fear. His hand clenched and unclenched on the hilt of a sword too sharp to be child's play. Cersei Lannister moved onto the steps as if the captain of a ship that had found a sandbar where she did not expect one. She did not bow. The silence had found a tooth by then and bit. Her voice carried without effort. "You presume too much, Lord Stark," she said, and every man in the square heard the sibilance of it. "You read a lie before the mother." "I read the law," Ned said. "This is no private thing done behind shutters. The realm must see who stands where." He raised the writ again. "You will not take the king's fleet from the harbor today. If you go down to the docks, you will find the men paid with crown coin and ordered to remain." "Ordered," she laughed, and the sound was the strike of steel on stone. "No give in it, no warmth." "By what right?" "By this right," Barristan Selmy said, stepping forward. He lifted his gauntlet and showed the palm. The scar across it, earnestly white, was the scar a boy earns when he swears an oath before the gods and cuts his palm open to show that blood means more than ink. The King's Guard are not, despite some thinking, the Queen's private watchmen. We are sworn to the King. The King is the law, and the law names the heir. "You would take a child's bread from his mouth," Cersei said, and there it was, the first truth she allowed herself to say. "You would call him bastard before his mother's face. If the boy were yours, even you would. If the boy were mine," Ned said quietly, "he would know who his father was, and the realm would not be forced to bow to a lie." It was not eloquent. It did not need to be. He felt the crowd lean with it. Littlefinger moved from his column as if to adjust how he might best watch a cockfight. Varys looked both troubled and content, a man who had predicted rain and found it. Pycelle dabbed his lips and labored to look as if he had not heard the words for the first time. The queen drew herself up, but the image of glory was frayed at the edges. "You will be removed as hand," she said. "You will be confined to your tower until the council is convened and may judge you for treason." "Janos!" She turned. The gold cloaks lurked like sand crabs at the tide line, not committed to the water and not committed to the sand. Slint's eyes slid past Barristan and came to Ned. The moment presented itself like a narrow bridge in a storm, and men had to choose whether to run across or huddle where they were. "The hand has the harbor," Slint said, voice too loud. "It might have been bravery. It might have been prudence. It might have been a coin's weight. I will not move my men against the King's Guard on the steps of the September, Your Grace. Not today. Not with the city watching," Ned thought. Not with the square a bowl filled with faces. Men were braver when no one could see the shape of their fear. The queen did not turn on Slint. She did not acknowledge him at all. She looked instead at Joffrey, her chin angled not in pride but in command. The boy jutted out his jaw the way a boy does when he has been told this will make him look fierce. It made him look smaller, the way an ill-fitting helm makes a head look like a child's toy. "This affront will be answered," Cersei said. "I will see you for this, Stark." "You will see the law," Ned said. "At the council, in the harbor, at the gates. The law is a lamp. It burns whether we wish it to or not." He was so tired of words. He thought of Winterfell, of the quiet of snow underfoot, of the drag of a rake through a stable, of the way a boy throws a ball to a dog and the dog cannot keep himself from chasing it with joy. He thought of his brother's bones out in the world somewhere and of a girl whose laughter he had not heard enough. He thought of the fleet, of the practical business of men and oars. Work, not words. They kept the peace on the September steps because the city watched, and trooping through the crowd with swords would have turned the day into something none of them could control. Cersei departed with her lions clustered close, and the sound of them going was the sound of silk and mail. Ned did not miss the flash of Renly's green at the back. the Stormlands boy who had grown a flower in his pocket and liked the smell of it. Renly moved as men in tourneys move when their horse has taken a stone under its shoe. Wary, not yet hurt but thinking of hurt. When the square ebbed, Barristan turned to Ned, and there was no triumph in him. "This fire will burn through everything dry," he said. "Make the harbor wet enough to hold it at bay." Ned nodded. "Come to the river with me again. I would set the first galley off with my own eyes." Back across the city, pigeons exploding before them like gray pitchers flung against a wall. Children ran at their heels as if the procession were a parade. Once, a butcher urged his boy to run up and ask for a blessing as if Ned were a septon. And the boy turned pink with the effort of piety and braced himself for laughter that did not come. Ned set his hand on the boy's head and said, "Help your father without being asked." And the father nodded, awkward and grateful. How many moments in a city this size, Ned thought, are like this: small, sincere, instructive, and how many are the other kind, sharp, hungry, predatory? At the harbor, the men were a new species of themselves. Coin made them taller. Duty made them deliberate. The galley they had chosen for the fast run to Dragonstone was called the Dawn Runner, a name someone had given it in a mood, and that stuck because no one with the authority to change ever bothered. Her prow wore the suggestion of a stag, not a good carving, but earnest. Oars hung like black teeth along her sides. The captain was a woman with arms like braided rope and a mouth that had never learned to simper. "Which of you is the man who writes better than he swears?" she demanded when Ned stepped to the gangplank. "I need a letter for Dragonstone and another for a castle that will open to a wolf. I need a third in case we go down with the first two." "I write badly, but I mean each line," Ned said. "I am that man." He handed her the packets, one sealed with the direwolf, one with the wax that bore the Baratheon crowns for the lords of the Stormlands, the third a copy of the first, by his own hand, copied imperfectly enough that he'd had to sand the page for too heavy a scratch. "Your name?" "Meej Harl," she said. "Harl of the Rivergate Sisters line. Nobody to anybody. I can ride a tide faster than the boy in his tower can light a candle. We'll go with the ebb. We'll cross the chop before it gets temper." "Meej Harl," he repeated, setting it in his mind. "What pay do you require?" "Pay me on return," she said. "If I wash up in driftwood and fish guts, give my sister's boy the coin. He's called Danit. He's got ears that stick out and a laugh that rubs your ribs sore. He's no good for water. He can hold a loom if no one shouts at him." "I will remember Danit," Ned said. He would. Names were how you held men. They were better ladders than titles ever were. He bent to the rail as the oars found the water, and the galley moved the way a hound moves at the scent. Swift, sure, not wanting to call attention to itself but unable to keep from the work. He watched until the Dawn Runner was a tooth of black against the larger sheet of silver. Around him, the fleet breathed. Lines creaked. The harbor master wrote more names. A boy with a scar along his jaw grinned at the coin in his palm and then at the idea, newly minted in his head, that the realm remembers. He turned toward the market then because a figure had been standing at the edge of the docks as still as a root-bound tree, and it was Davos Seaworth. How the smuggler had come into the city so quietly Ned did not know. Perhaps he had always been in every harbor at once, as men like that seemed to be. Davos was thin-faced and lean with honesty he had learned the hard way. His hands were the hands of a sailor with the last joints of the fingers cut away as if taxes had been owed to the god of storms. "My lord," Davos said, and he bowed without flourish. "I've a wife at the foot of a cliff and a boy who wants a sword too heavy for him. I've a lord with a frown that he sleeps under like a blanket. I came to see what's true in the words that fly. Could not stay at Dragonstone and pretend not to hear the gulls. The sea carries rumor as well as fish." Ned felt something like gratitude pry open a space in him. "Lord Stannis has men who will watch his back. He has fewer who will say what a man needs to hear. He'll take a place on the cog we send next. Take back what you see and what you hear me say. Tell him the fleet is held for him." Davos glanced at the men with coins. "Held is a word that can mean rope or warmth," he said. "Which do you mean?" "I mean that the ships are not the queen's to use. I mean that the fleet will not carry her guards. I mean that this harbor is closed to the passage of lions on ships with royal colors. I mean that when your lord comes to claim what the law gives him, he will not come to a harbor emptied by gold and trickery." He paused, then added, "I mean that a northerner who has never loved the sea finds himself shaped by it in this place." Davos's mouth did an odd thing, not laughter and not quite sorrow. "Aye, my lord, the sea changes the shape of everything it touches." The second cog, the Brindle, left in early afternoon with casks and sacks and a list of men who had stepped forward without being shamed into it by other men. Byron Tripp slapped the rail with his open palm, as if the ship were some old friend he had not seen in years and did not trust to recognize him. Tomas Waters kissed his fingers and touched them to the air out of habit. The ship heaved, made awkward by the weight of its fare, but found its movement as a boy finds his gait eventually. Ned watched and then turned, because one cannot watch every rope's angle and still do the work of the day. The Queen had not been idle. When the sun began to angle toward late, the streets near the Tower of the Hand were peopled with men in crimson livery, and the line of them at the base of the steps looked like tongue of some vast beast. Sansa met him in the corridor before the Solar, hair braided so elaborately that a small kingdom had been built and defended upon the back of her head. "Father," she said, and there was a tremble to it he had not heard before. "The Queen sent for me to sing at midday and then did not hear the song. She kept me long, and I do not know if I should be insulted or grateful. Arya has hidden from Septa Mordane. Septa Mordane has hidden from Arya. Have we done something dreadful? We have done precisely what we must," he said. He put his hand lightly to his daughter's cheek. She leaned into it briefly, the way infants do who have not yet learned to be ashamed. "You will pack your things. You will take only what you need and what you cannot bear to leave. Keep your warmest dress atop the trunk. It is an old father's habit to tell girls to bring cloaks, even to places where the wind is made of salt and summer. Humor me." Her mouth quirked. "I will humor you," she said. "There is to be a feast, the Queen says, to honor the—" She stumbled. "To honor the prince's grief. Will we go?" "You will not," he said. "You will feign an illness if pressed. As for me, I will not pretend to break bread with men who will smile at one truth and plot to break another over wine. Will that make it worse?" She had learned. At that question somehow. He did not know from whom. "It will make it honest," he said. "If we begin to shave our honesty to fit, we will be wearing nothing but shavings when this is over. Sometimes you say things that are too northern," she said, and smiled despite herself. "I will do as you ask." When she had gone, he stood a long moment looking at the map on the wall, the one with the 7 kingdoms drawn in a hand finer than his own but still flawed in the way every drawn thing is flawed, coasts too smooth, mountain ranges too suggestive. He traced with a forefinger the place where Dragonstone stood, a tooth beside the gums of the land. He traced to Storm's End, a castle grown out of the ribcage of the world. He traced north, always north, to a place where the mapmaker's ink had made a white smudge, as if the cold had been too much even for the quill. If he closed his eyes, he could feel the weirwoods bark under his hand. Varys entered as quietly as a cat into a room where a baby slept. He did not look at the sword or the sealed letters. He looked at the tea on the table as if it might be important. "My lord," he said, "it has been an industrious morning." "You were in the square," Ned said. "You heard the law spoken. It is not industriousness for its own sake." "The Queen has been industrious as well," Varys said, and the words came out dressed in concern, though whether the concern was for Ned or for the Queen or for some third entity called the balance of things, it was impossible to say. Renly Baratheon vanished from the palace 2 hours ago with a little train of men who think brightly colored clothing makes them invisible. The Highgarden men have the look of mice who smell cream in a cabinet they cannot get open. The Lord Commander of the Watch has been seen in private consultation with Lord Baelish, and there are whispers that the alchemists have found a buyer for 100 jars of wildfire who is not the army and not the city. It is very strange, no? The harbor is closed. Let them buy jars. If they attempt to move them by river, I will have notice of it. Ned's temper was a blade honed on the stone of the day. As for Lord Baelish, he can sell his counsel by the pound. He will find some buyer who will pretend to be satisfied with it. You are not a man to take counsel from men whose hands you do not trust, Varys said. This is a virtue. It is also a problem when you attempt to move a city made of men with untrustworthy hands. Tell me why you have come, Varys, if not to talk me into trusting someone who has made a career of being untrustworthy. Because I dislike wildfire changed hands in numbers, Varys said simply, and it made him look for a moment like a man who truly had a fear in him. Because the Queen will attempt to do with fire what she could not do with swords on the steps of the September. Because the fleet is a rope in your hands today, and a rope is a tool and a danger. Because a whisper has reached me that men of the household of House Velaryon have stirred their oars on Driftmark and might be persuaded to remember the old loyalty to Dragonstone that the world thought had been put to sleep. Because I like to imagine myself useful, and sometimes the imagination is not entirely vanity. Velaryon is a name that rides ships, Ned said. What do they want? What everyone wants, Varys said, spreading his hands. To be themselves and to be left alone and to not be left out. If a mood of captains is called on the water, and you are the hand who called it, they will come and bind their oaths to you and then to the name you put above you. You have chosen Stannis. Stannis has always been a man who does not warm his hands at other men's fires. It will not make the hands less cold, but at least the fire will be honest. I will call the moot at dawn, Ned said, at the buoys beyond the ferry bend. I do not play at the theater of it. I only aim to bind the fleet more tightly to the law. Then I will whisper to ears that can make the room ready, Varys said. Do not be surprised if Lord Baelish arrives with a smile and an offer to hold the ropes for you. He enjoys a hand on knots. He fancies himself a sailor. He is a man who likes to cut ropes and sell them by the fathom, Ned said. I will keep his hands where I can see them. Be sure you keep your daughters where you can see them also, Varys said gently, and for that alone, Ned did not have him thrown out. The Queen is not finished. I know, Ned said. Neither am I. When night fell, it did not fall with the clean kindness of northern winter. It seeped. Torches grew along the river like persistent flowers. The city rearranged itself to listen to different sounds. Music in a noble court that had nothing to do with happiness. Laughter in an alley that had everything to do with meanness. The hush of prayers said not to be heard but to steady the hands of the prayer. Ned sat on the bench before the hearth in his solar with his boots off and his eyes closed for the amount of time it takes water in a kettle to consider boiling. When he opened them, Yoren from the Night's Watch sat in the doorway like a shadow. You carry your own night, Yoren, Ned said. Have you come to remind me you could use a few more boys who will take black? I came for the boy and found him gone, and then came for the words and found them in everyone's mouth, Yoren said. He smelled of old leather and of the road and of the small nastiness of men who try to live where other men have already decided they don't want to be. If you mean to leave this city, you ought to either do it quick or settle in like a tick, my lord. It does not like men who are in between. I am settling in like a man who knows where he is going and will not be hurried, Ned said, and he was surprised by the truth of it even as he spoke it. Go back to your inn of the crossroads and your black cloaks. Take what boys you can gather and go quickly. Dr. Ode North will be a tangle for those who tarry. I had a mind to take your girl, Yoren said, and when Ned's head came up, Yoren lifted a hand. To Winterfell, I mean, you think I would put a girl in a black cloak? I'm not so foolish, but I know the river path and the pig tracks that pass for roads. If you will give her to me, I'll set her in your hall in 2 months or break my legs trying. Not yet, Ned said after a beat. If I fail, you will not find her in her room. She will not be a tame bird. Wait one day. If the city goes wrong at the moorings, I will put her into your hands at once. That is the smell on the wind, Yoren said. Wrong at the moorings. I'll drink your beer and sleep on your bench and go when the moon slides over the tower. Your men know me. Take what you need from the kitchens, Ned said. The cooks will scowl. They scowl for love of their larders. I've known worse, Yoren said, and was gone like a smear rubbed off a window. In his mind, the day unfolded and folded again. and the folds creased as if the paper itself remembered the hand that had made them. He slept a little in the chair despite himself, and if he dreamed, he could not remember the dreams. If a man is drowning, he does not remember the taste of the water, only the shape of the air he could not get. In the early hours, the city made the particular silence that belongs to it when most of its people are asleep and those who are not asleep are trying and failing to touch what they want in darkness. He woke to the far horn of a ship, the sound a man makes when he is glad to be working. On Dragonstone, smoke crawled along the ridge like a snake too lazy to strike. Stannis Baratheon stood on the seawall with his arms folded and his mouth a thin line. The sea heaved and smacked itself against stone the way a man smacks his own thigh when he cannot find a solution in his head. Davos brought him the letters before the sun had warmed the wet off the fortress's black shoulders. Lord Stark, Stannis read aloud because there was no one else present to hear, and habit made him say what he meant to himself like a judge reading the sentence to an empty court. He read of the proclamation on the steps of the Great September, of the harbor seized for the law, of the gold counted out for men, of a rope thrown from King's Landing to Dragonstone across which truth might walk. He read of a moot called for captains on the water, the old custom of men who lived by the sea and who had learned that oaths sworn afloat bind well. He has courage, Stannis said, though the words seemed to pain him, as if complimenting any man cost him a small bite of flesh. He has not the appetite for certain kinds of courage, but he has this kind. These are steps. They should have been taken earlier. He was slow, but they are steps. He is not the kind of man to leap when the ground looks uncertain, Davos said. He will test the soil with his heel, and when he finds it holds, he will plant flags on it. He sent coin with the letters. He sent names of men who stepped forward from the lists. He sent me. He said my name, and I did not feel like I had been measured for a rope. Stannis looked to the sea, and the gulls had the look of men who have been listening to secrets and are bored. He did not send a ship heavy with swords, Stannis said, as if he were arguing with himself. He sent a light galley and a heavy cog with corn and meat and names. He sent a promise of a moot on the morrow. If I go like a boy running to a bonfire, I arrive at a city prepared to take me on its own terms. If I hold and make my own call, I risk the moment passing me by. Men like Renly move in moments. They live in them like fish in water. Renly has moved already, Davos said. The spider told Lord Stark. He left like a man trying not to be heard in his own house. Men with green pins in their cloaks and flowers on their sleeves went with him. Then he will go where pretty words grow easily, Stannis said, and they will plant him and water him and see if he will bear fruits that look like crowns. I am not much for fruit. I prefer bread. Send for Montford Valerion. Send for the captains. The fleet we have will be at the mouth of the gullet by nightfall. We will go to the moot. We will not be bidden to it like lackeys. We will be there to provide the thing while it is being called for. And if Lord Stark is playing at law to hide a device, we will see it and cut the string. He said it with the lack of heat that comes of someone so smoldering within that there is no spare flame for surface. He walked with Davos along the wall until the wind made his eyes water, and then down the stairs to the inner hall where Maester Cresson sat in a chair by the hearth with a blanket upon his knees and a look on his face that had outlasted kings. He had the letter already. He held it as if it were a shell that might be held to the ear to hear the sea. Eddard Stark writes as a man who seldom pretends at what he is not, Cresson said. He asks for truth to be regarded where it has been dressed as show. He will need more than coin and writs. He will need men at his shoulder who do not count the cost because that is their way. That is you, Stannis. You are a cost that cannot be counted. That is why your brother needed you. That is why the law points at you now. It is a harsh fact, and I do not love it. But I do not love the sea's harshness, and still it holds my eyes. I did not ask for anyone to love my facts, Stannis said. I asked for the keys to the boathouse and a list of captains with brains and backs. Get them for me. Davos slipped away to do it. In the yard he found the boy with ears like handles, one of his own brood, Devon. standing with a basket waiting for instruction the way boys do when they understand they are on the edge of a matter and want to be a part of it. "You will carry this list to Lord Valerion," Davos said, "and if anyone attempts to make conversat Ion with you, you will nod and run faster. If they put out a foot to trip you, you will leap and think of your mother's ladle if you spill so much as a word. Go." "I will not spill," Devon said, and ran like a letter loosed from its seal. In King's Landing, the morning broke thin and yellow, and the buoys beyond the ferry bend knocked together as if greeting one another nervously. Ned walked to the river with Barristan at his side, and the Kingsguard's white had collected ash from the city's breath in the night and now wore gray as if in sympathy. The mood of captains came not to the words but to the sight of men standing with intent. They came in little boats like beetles, in light galleys that skated water, in the few big-bellied ships that were too proud to move without the river first introducing itself. They came and made a ring and floated there with their ships' noises speaking for them until the humans could find their own. Torrin Rivers stood in the stern of the boathouse skiff with the oaken key at his belt again. "Captains," Ned began, and was struck by how inadequate that word is when the men answer to a thing so indifferent as the sea. He spoke without his writ in his hand for the first time. He spoke with the law under his ribs instead, tethered there by the years he'd spent believing it to be true. He told them what had happened on the steps of the September. He told them what would happen at the harbor if anyone tried to move jars of wildfire without writ. This particular rumor having threaded itself into the morning air like smoke. He told them about Stannis, and he did not dress the man up. He told them the law did not always have a pleasing face. He told them the law wore the face of the man who took the duty when it came to him and did not go shopping for a better one. A captain who might have been Meej Harl's sister in stubbornness raised her, or, "If a lion comes with coin in his purse and a smile, what should I do?" she called. "Refuse both coin and smile and find my boat burned at its moorings? My men cannot drink law. They cannot put it in their bellies and find themselves fatter. You take the coin you are owed by the crown," Ned said. "If a lion offers you more, you tell him the crown has paid up and your purse is not empty. If he threatens, you come to the boathouse and show the mark the hand has put next to your ship's name. If your boat is burned at its moorings, I will know whose hand carried the torch. I have not used wildfire on men's houses. I have used coin. Men in red cloaks may come and try to change my choice. They will do it in daylight in front of men who have eaten from their wives' pots and carried water for years, and we will see which way the fishmonger and the butcher lean. I am not a fool. I do not turn aside a practical fear with a story. I tell you the truth of what I can put between you and a torch. It is not everything. It is what I have." They listened because he did not promise extra slop or a miracle. They listened because he told them he had coin and names. They listened because the water listened, and that counts for more than people think. When he had finished, and the buoys knocked together again, a figure in a light galley slipped into the circle and made men's backs straighten as if the tide had changed under them. House Valerion had made themselves as the sea makes a cliff, by allowing wave after wave to spend itself upon them without giving way. Lord Montfort Valerion stood in his prow as if he had grown there, pale hair and skin that had been bleached by sun and salt into a kind of clean that has nothing to do with soap. He did not bow as if to soil himself with it. He inclined his head just enough to show he understood the shape of courtesy even if he did not love its taste. "Lord Stark," Lord Valerion said, "I have come because Davos Seaworth ran his son's legs off carrying a list and because the sea was scratching at my door. I have come to ask if the law you speak is meant also for those whose oaths are older than the fashion of this court. We have pledged ourselves to Dragonstone longer than most men have pledged themselves to their wives. If Stannis Baratheon comes to claim what is his, we do not need to be told to stand aside. We will make the standing aside something to look at. It is meant for all," Ned said. "Compliments are well spent on some men and wasted on others. The law is not a compliment. It is a hammer and a measuring stick. I will not tell you how to be yourself. I will tell you what the harbor will accept." "Good," Lord Valerion said, "because I dislike a man trying to tell me how to be, especially a man with a wolf on his chest. Wolves stink of pine, and pine has never learned to float properly. We will keep the waterways for Stannis. We will turn any jar of wildfire bound for a lion's ship into a problem they must explain to their gods. We will make space in the mouth of the Blackwater for a fleet to come through. And we will do this with the gratitude of men who have found a hand who remembers where the wrist is. It was as close to a love song as a Valerian ever gave to a stranger. Ned nodded. Then we are agreed. I will put your words into a seal and tie it to the writ. Anyone who defies it will find himself dealing with you and me both. He looked at the ring of ships, the way their wakes made a lace of the river, a sewing too fine for rough hands. There is work. There were other voices, some anxious, some hopeful. There were men with lists and pens and gods in their pockets, and men who touched the amulets at their throats when they swore. There were children no older than Arya ferrying cups of water along the docks because someone clever realized that thirsty men agree less readily than those with wet tongues. There was a boy who asked Barristan Selmy to touch his sword so that it would have luck in it, and Barristan obliged and said, "Luck lives in wrists, not steel," and the boy beamed, as if he had been given a new wrist. When the moot broke, the river looked as if it had been breathed on and fogged. Ned walked with torn rivers down the planks and found that someone had painted, in a hand not skillful but enthusiastic, a little pair of antlers under the prow of the Brindle in the hours since she had gone and come again. He put his hand on the paint as if checking whether it had dried and found it tacky still. "We will have to be careful," he said. "When men begin to decorate ships with antlers, someone gets the clever idea to put a crown on them." "Men have had stranger ideas," Rivers said, and his scar pulled when he smiled. Back in the Tower of the Hand, Littlefinger waited in the solar the way a cat waits in a doorway with a dead bird, not certain whether he will be praised or beaten. He bowed too low for a man who prided himself on never bowing quite enough to draw attention. "My Lord Hand," he said, "you have a gift. I doff my... well, I don't commit to doffing anything until I see which way the wind blows, but I have a hand on something that might make you nod." "I have nodded enough today," Ned said. "Speak plain. I am not a man to stand on the steps of a September and say blunt things," Littlefinger said, and when Ned did not say anything, he went on with a mild smile. "But I admire the spectacle. A man who lacks imagination must at least have nerve. You have both, less of one and more of the other than suits the rest of us. At any rate, I can give you Slint should you want him quite. He is at the end of a leash that I have had my fingers in for years. If you want the leash longer, I can oblige. If you want it shorter, I can adjust. I do not advise cutting the leash altogether. Men without tethers are like boats without moorings. They drift to the first big ship they see and attach themselves with a sound most unpleasant to the ear." "I would like the leash handed to the law," Ned said. "No man should be at the end of another man's private leash." Littlefinger laughed as if he were at supper and had just been told about a goat that could dance. "You are going to make the city a strawberry patch, Lord Stark. Nothing but neat rows and no weeds. I do not have the heart to tell you that weeds grow on their own and strawberries need tending. You have the heart to tell me anything as long as you get credit for your cleverness in telling it," Ned said dryly. "What price do you ask, Peter, for adjusting the leash?" "Only your ear on occasion," Littlefinger said, "and perhaps the promise that when you carve the city into tidy plots, you will leave one small corner wild for me to haunt. I get anxious when men start putting up fences in places I have enjoyed walking free." "You may haunt the corners," Ned said. "Just don't bring wildfire into them." "Ah, wildfire," Littlefinger said. "Best left to men in leather aprons, I agree. It makes my teeth itch. Varys will tell you so and then slip a jar of the stuff under someone's bed like a cat with a mouse. He's helpful that way." "I do not intend to sleep much," Ned said, and meant it. He sent Littlefinger away with that because a man like that thrives on too much conversation and you keep him hungrier by starving him of it. He slept little that night again. He wrote more letters to Riverrun and White Harbor and to the Eyrie, addressed to men he knew would have their own stones to pick out of this field. He wrote to Lord Arryn's son, though the boy would not read it. He wrote to the mother, knowing the words would settle on her like a snowfall that does not melt straight away. He wrote to Winterfell and wrote in it things a father writes when he is trying to be both the oak and the grass. Dawn brought fog again. The Blackwater shrugged like an old man rolling his shoulders before he went to the fields. The Dawn Runner had not yet returned, but a smaller boat had come in during the night from the direction of Duskendale bearing a man with fear in his eyes, not for himself but for what he had seen. He wore the badge of a ferryman and could not stop glancing at the river. "Jars," he babbled in the harbormaster's office before he got enough breath to organize the words into a row. "Green jars, the kind that make the old men go pale when you say the word. They came to the shore by night, men in red cloaks at their shoulders. They moved them on carts that had their wheels wrapped in leather." "How many?" Ned asked. "More than I can count when I am scared," the man said honestly. "Less than 100, more than 20. Enough to make a high tower into a pyre if you are not careful." Ned looked to Torrin Rivers. "Post men at the boathouse with orders to see every barrel and cask that goes onto a royal craft. If they see a jar of wildfire, they will shame the man carrying it in front of everyone within earshot. Shame is a wooden sword that breaks, and yet it can hurt if you hit the right place. Send word to the Alchemists Guild that any jar found in a cart without rint will be seized by the crown and turned over to the river. Post it on their door in letters large enough for anyone who likes to pretend he misread things." "Aye," Rivers said, and left as if he were pleased with the plainness of the command. The moot that day was less talk and more work. Montfort Valerian had come with his captains before full morning. Davos was with them, and the look on his face made of relief and caution wed in him a new thing. Stannis's galley had shone at the edges of the fog like a thought forming. He would not come with flags streaming. He would come like a blade under a cloak. He came, and the jaw of the man was the same at sea as it had been on land, unwilling to be anything but what it was. On the deck of the Valerian flagship, the river was a skin stretched over the back of something alive and indifferent. Ned stepped onto the planks and extended his hand, not as if they were boys in a yard, but as if they were men neath, of whom would waste an opportunity to be straightforward. Stannis did not hesitate. He took the hand and squeezed hard enough that the bones made themselves known to one another. "Lord Stark," Stannis said, "you have made a noise." "I hoped men would hear it," Ned said. "The noise is less important than the shape it leaves behind when it is finished." "You mean to hold the harbor," Stannis said, because he would not say the thing he valued in a way that would allow flattery to nest in it. "You mean to do it not with swords but with coin and lists and faces on which men can spend their trust. You mean to speak law until men either acquiesce or break themselves against it. It may work. It has not been tried with enough stubbornness in recent days. I have brought 5 of my best galleys. The rest are behind. Valerian rides with me. The Queen cannot push jars and men past that and claim accident later. We will take the registries of the ships and sign them together," Ned said. "We will draw a line. Men will know whether their rope lies on one side or the other. They can step over it if they like, but they will not pretend they did not see it. There is another thing," Stannis said slowly, as if he disliked having to say it out loud because saying it so forced him to give respect to the man to whom he was saying it. "Renly has gone south. Highgarden. They will put a crown on something that will not bear weight. If they put a crown on his head, they will think they have found a way around law, and men will be relieved. Men like to be relieved. Relief is like a cool shade in a hot field. Your proclamation reaches not only into the city but into the Reach and the Riverlands and beyond. There will be answers." "I expected none of this to be easy," Ned said. "I expected to be cut by something. I would like my cuts to be honest ones." "You are a strange hand," Stannis said. "You speak like a man who stares at his shoes because he wants to be sure he does not tread on anything that lives. You do not look men in the eye to unnerve them. You do it because you like eyes that are not trying to trick you. Very well. We will hold the harbor. The Queen will look for ground that is not water. She will look to the watch. The watch will look to its purse. The purse has a string. Give me the end of it. I will give you names," Ned said, "but I will not move men like stones. I will tell them which way the law points. I will expect them to walk that way without needing to be dragged by their hair. Then some will and some will not, Stannis said. We will see of which sort Yanoslint is made. He looked toward the city and the sound it made when awake and irritated. We will see of which sort Barristan Selmy is made, although I think I know. I do not say you have done a bad thing, Lord Stark. I say the sea does not care and the city cares in a way that sprays into every crevice. I am not good at caring in that way. I am good at saying, this is true, and then living with what that requires. If you are like me in that, then we will get along. If you are like your brother was, we will not. I am not my brother, Ned said, and thought of Brandon's laughter, and thought of steel, and thought of a girl under a tree. He met Stannis's eye and found there no joy, no malice, only a kind of chiseled duty that had forgotten when to stop carving. We will hold the harbor, he said again. Sounded like a vow. The day wore on and did the work of proving what men had said in the morning they would do. Tyrion Lannister had not yet arrived in the city. He was somewhere east, riding with a host and an anger that were not yet pointed their way. Renly was south, his approach to power sprouting petals. The Queen's courtiers began to find excuses to not be present when she walked into rooms. The alchemists found their door posted with a notice in blunt hand and, for the first time in years, discovered they were afraid of the harbor more than they were enamored of their art. The watch leaned like a drunk between two walls and discovered that one of them was stone and the other wood with a rot in it. When men are given the choice, they lean against stone. That evening, Arya came to him without sound and with the smell of river reed on her hands. I did not disobey, she said, which is how men say they have done exactly that but found a way to keep the spirit of a command well enough to be proud. I did not go to the harbor. I went to the roof above the harbor. There were cats. One scratched me. I scratched it back. You have all your fingers, he said, and only when he said it did he hear the odd weight in his own voice, thinking of Davos. Did you fall? I do not fall, she said. Sometimes I sit down suddenly to keep the falling from happening when something surprises me. She paused. When the Queen came to the steps, I wanted to throw something. I didn't. I wanted to spit. I didn't. I wished for an ice wind to come down and make everyone quiet. Didn't. I. That's too much I for one day. There are days like that, he said. Tomorrow, perhaps, there will be less I in it. Tomorrow I will climb somewhere else, she said frankly, so as to balance the days. I will not go to the harbor. I will go to the Street of Flower. Nobody does anything important on the Street of Flower. You have not seen how men feel about bread, he said, and she smiled and went, leaving behind her a feeling like the wake of a small, fast boat. Night pressed its face against the windows and left its soft grease there. The city flew dark flags that were not flags at all, the laundry lines with their shadows, the angles of rooftops against a sky that did not care about their angles. Ned wrote again, not because the words would change anything at once, but because they were also work and he could not sleep. He was not a man to pace a room. He had paced yards and fields and the line before a battle, but he did not like tea. Oh, pace a room. He preferred to either sit in it or leave it. He left it, finally, with Tomard and Desmond as silent columns at his shoulders. They went down to the harbor because sometimes a man cannot stay away from the thing he has put his hand to. The water lay with its skin just ruffled. The Dawn Runner's oars had not yet brought her back, but the Brindle had returned earlier than anyone thought she could, and men had clapped their hands at the sight of her as if she were a child who had done something well and unexpectedly. The watchfires along the river were small, careful things. Men had learned a lesson about the size of flames in a city that day. They whispered, and he heard the word wildfire in those whispers and heard fear and bravado and caution knit together like a bad scarf. Standing at the end of a pier, Ned felt the city at his back in all its restless opinion and felt the river in front like a thing that had no opinion at all. Comforted him. He thought a moment, and then he took out from his belt the oaken key to the boathouse and weighed it in his palm. He had promised to return it to Torrhen Rivers at day's end, but the day had stretched and refused to end when it should have, and this felt more honest besides. He dropped the key into the river. It did not make a dramatic splash. It went down with a plop and a series of small rings that widened and touched the pilings and then did not show they'd been there. The key had locked and unlocked many things today. Tomorrow there would be another key. The act suited nothing and solved nothing, and yet he felt his shoulders ease, as if some symbol had been put where it belonged. When he turned, he found Barristan looking at him from the end of the next pier. The old knight did not look surprised. "Some things belong in water," Barristan said. "And some don't," Ned said. Together they walked. The night did not grow less complicated. The Queen did not grow less intent. But the harbor held. The fleet lay like a line pulled taut, and men along it held their breath and their nerve and waited for their arms to tire and waited for something that might not happen to happen, as men in sieges do. The city shifted, trying to find an angle from which to topple them, and failed to find one that day. At Dragonstone, the sea pushed at the island's shoulders the way puppies push a big dog to see if it will play. Stannis did not play. He sent the galleys back toward the city with oars that never learned to lift except in time. He wrote a letter that was all angles and put no sugar on any of the edges. Davos carried it. Cresson slept with his mouth slightly open and dreamed of a time when men bowed for the satisfaction of it rather than for what the bow would purchase them. On the walls, the guards leaned into the stay of stone as men always do. The gulls remained unimpressed. By noon of that day, the Dawn Runner cut water in sight of the city, and men on the piers pointed and shouted as if she were something that had never been seen before. She came in with the wind in her rags and the promise of letters. Meej Harl grinned with most of her teeth. The galley sides bore marks as if someone had thrown bad temper at her and it had slid off. Ned met her and took the thick of the seal Stannis had sent, wax black as the rock it had been stamped on. He opened it there on the pier because some things should be done in air and light. The letter said little and said it strongly. Said, "I am coming." Said, "Hold." Said, "The law is a bitter fruit, but it feeds better than lies." Said, "The Queen will try to set the city on fire and call it justice." Said, "Do not let her." "I will not," Ned said aloud, though the letter could not hear him. Men around him straightened as if the atlas of the day required it. He sent for Sansa and told her again to keep her trunk light. He found Arya in a cupboard with a cat, the pair of them blinking at him as if he had intruded upon a conference. He told Tomard to be ready to move at a word. He told Desmond to sleep now because he would not sleep later. He told the harbor master that the boathouse would not be closed at dusk as it usually was. There would be a man there with a lantern and a book, and there would be someone else with him, perhaps a boy, perhaps a girl, who would write the names down when the lantern bearer could not keep up. If the man with the lantern grew tired, the other would not. He told Varys that he could whisper that the fleet was athroat now, and those who tried to push the Queen's breath through it would find themselves coughing. He waited. The Queen held court that day with a face made of carved fruit, and like fruit that has been carved, it will eventually rot faster than it would have if left whole. Men took note. Renly's absence lay like a missing tooth in a smile. One could not help but place the tongue there. Littlefinger wandered through 3 rooms as if he were learning where the light falls best for paintings. Pycelle wrote a letter to someone and then burned it inches after sealing it, because he had only wanted the feeling of having written it. Janos Slint felt his leash tug and for the first time considered whether he liked the sensation. On the river, the buoys knocked again, amiably. The fleet settled into a discipline it had not known it owned. Torchlight collected in bowls on the banks. Somewhere, in an alley where no one important would ever think to look, a boy leaned against a wall with a loaf of bread and laughed until he hiccuped, and across town a woman wept for no reason she could name. The city is a beast, Ned thought. The thing to do with a beast is to know where it wakes and where it sleeps, and to get your hands on the leash not because you love leashes but because the alternative is being dragged. He took his seat by the window again, in the Tower of the Hand, and when the wind came up he could hear the fleet answer. Not with words, not with chi, RS, but with the chime of rigging, with the knock of wood on wood, with the small scolds of rope against rings. Music that men who live by water carry in them even when they lie down in land's bed. He knew this much. Whatever fire came, the river knew how to wet. Whatever lie came, there were men who knew the taste of honest coin and the feel of honest lists. Whatever quiet stab came, there were eyes that had seen the law spoken in daytime and would not forget it so easily. It would not be enough by itself. Nothing was. But it was something men could put their feet on and say, this is ground. He had built as much of a bridge as he could before the flood. Now, he thought, we see who crosses and who runs for higher ground and who is swept. And still, before sleep, he went again to kiss Arya's hair and to lay his hand briefly upon Sansa's brow, and to write to his lady at Winterfell one more time, though he would not send it, only to get the words out of him so they would not swell and burst. Outside, the city turned in its sleep and showed its other side, the one that looks like a child and the one that looks like a knife, and the river lay as if resting between shifts. The fleet, seized not as a prize but as a trust, waited with it.